Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of This Korean Life, coming to you from Ulsan City. Today's podcast is brought to you by Namaskar, Ulsan's #1 choice for Indian food. They offer a variety of mouth-watering curries, chicken, naan, lassis, and more. Stop in and see Nirmal and his friendly staff at either of their locations in Samsandong or Songnam-dong to enjoy some fabulous Indian food. Both restaurants are open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner from 11 a.m. until 10 p.m. This podcast is also brought to you by Sticky Fingers. They're open nightly from 7 p.m. Shill and his staff are ready to serve you hot food and cold drinks. Sticky's is a well-known place to enjoy live music, hang out with friends, and play games. Wednesday's wing night and Friday offers 1+1 well cocktails until 11 p.m. It is located in the heart of the action downtown next to Thursday Party just behind Lotte Department Store. Today's guest is Rogelio Garcia. He is from California. He was a teacher here in Ulsan for, I think, over 5 years. He lived here with his wife and his daughter. Roy was very active in the community. He played hockey. He was a very good volunteer for the local NGO We Hope, and an all-around good guy. He's got lots of experiences, lots of stories to share, and some good information for anyone looking to diversify their teaching portfolio as he is off to greener pastures.
You are now tuned into This Korean Life with your hosts Brian and Nate.
Welcome, Mr. Rogelio Garcia. Nice. Very glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start off with first, Nate. When did you meet Roy?
I remember.
I actually remember really well. It was at the orphanage, and I had seen you a couple times, and then randomly one time we were playing soccer together, and I remember you were barefoot for some reason. You had to come in sandals, and I thought it was hilarious that there was this giant man running around a soccer field barefoot. But it came up one way or another about hockey, and you were like, "Oh man, come out to the rink. We have gear and everything." And I was like, "I've never played ice," and you were like, "Don't worry about it. None of these Korean dudes have either." So that was my first memory. I'm sure we bumped into each other before that.
You got a good memory.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I do.
It's hard to forget you running around a soccer field barefoot.
But I've been here a few more years and run into a few more people, so I don't remember all of them so clearly.
Absolutely.
But I don't think many of them forget seeing the big guy. I was at the swimming pool this morning, and I think most of those grandma and grandpa swimming there talk about me the whole time.
The grandpa,
that big guy.
The grandpa's having flashbacks from 1940 when he used to harpoon whales, man. Good times. Anyways, Rogelio, it's I always find it funny that a kid from California came over to Korea and learned to play ice hockey.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're from whereabouts in California?
I grew up in LA, like LA County, one of the suburbs, a little place called Pico Rivera. And then, but after college, I moved to Seattle and lived in Seattle for 5 or 6 years, and met my wife there, and we came to Korea together.
Very nice. What did you grow up an LA fan?
Kings?
Yeah, the Kings.
Oh yeah, still am. It's
really
awful. I mean, it's a terrible season this year, but yeah, I grew up on Gretzky, right? Like that was the era. It was like Kelly Rudy,
I guess so.
Gretzky.
I didn't think I was that much older than you. Gretzky I remember Gretzky in the Oilers.
Yeah. That was before I was too conscious of the NHL.
Oh, dope.
That was it. Before I moved down south, nobody really knew about it.
No. He changed hockey in LA though. I mean, he brought hockey to LA, and even I think to the West, right? Like,
I think most Canadians don't realize it because hockey was huge in Canada all the time, but we don't realize the impact it had down in the Southwest. And
it was huge, and you had like movie stars going to these games, right? That was like part of the thing too that really pushed.
We just felt like you stole one of our guys.
Yeah.
But now, LA, San Jose, Anaheim, all within, a little bit of each other, all on the coast there is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I mean, they've tried to go east from there too, right? Like the Phoenix and some things. Vegas, it's kind of worked out. It's early, but it's worked out pretty well.
We'll see. Big first season, but so anyways, you were in LA, moved to Seattle. You were working there? You're studying there? What's the...
Yeah, I was kind of tired of living in LA. I grew up there, and it's a great place if you're not from there, but I think growing up there, it gets hard, man. Traffic, and it's just a grind. It's also expensive.
Yeah.
My sister was living in Seattle, and I decided to kind of give it a shot, and found a job up there really quickly in social services, and then planned on only staying a year, but like 1 turned into 5, just kind of similar.
What happened to Korea?
I mean, but it was great. I loved working in social services up there. I worked for a couple of really good organizations that were mostly focused on homeless young adults, so like 13 to 25-year-olds who were homeless, and providing a lot of pretty essential services for them.
Cool.
Both like helping them meet some basic needs while they're on the street, but then also helping them transition off, and get into housing in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of different avenues they could take. Cool.
So what put the bug in your ear about, or what put the thought in your head about coming to Korea? How did you hear about it? What was your
So I had a buddy who was teaching in Thailand.
Okay.
8 years off and on. And he was a nut. I loved him. I grew up in LA with him. Such a weird dude. But he had kind of gone to Thailand and come back and forth. And I remember just kind of, again, like 3 years into Seattle, thinking like, oh, maybe it's time for a move. And he told me, don't come to Thailand. The money's so much better in Korea. And then you can travel more, and you could always come and visit me in Thailand. Yeah. And then looked into that and realized like I had a couple friends who had lived abroad here. And then really just applied. I actually applied to EPIC, the public program, man, like 3 years into Seattle. Okay. So probably like 2011 or 12 or something like that. And got a job offer, and then got super cold feet and backed off.
No way.
Didn't take it. and then after I met Emily, and Emily was super tired of her job. She was working for the city of Seattle, or for the county, at a county gig, making a lot of money, but just hated it. Like, it was like soul draining work. Yeah. And when I mentioned like, I had thought about living abroad too, it was like immediate. She was like, let's just go. Yeah. I don't any reason to quit my job, because it's impossible to quit that job. It's like great pay and great benefits. You retire at 50, like all these things. That you don't need that job.
But you got to wait till you're 50 to enjoy your life.
Yeah. So she just thought, man, if you want to go, let's go. Yeah. So from then on, it became like, maybe 6 months to a year of planning, and then applied and got the gig. And
nice.
6 months to a year planning.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think mine was about 1 week planning.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think, average. Yeah.
I had a similar to you. I had met a buddy randomly on the street, and he said, I was in Japan, blah, 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 Yeah. And that kind of put the bug in my ear, and I thought about it. Okay, I'm going to Japan. And things, I don't know, I ended up in Korea. It's quite a long story. I won't get into it, but it was mine. Yeah, Nate said 6 months or a year. Mine was buy a computer, time to go. It was really quick. I was so tired of
2004, and I had known some people that were here, and I put a thing on Dave's ESL, my application or my resume, and the next day I must have had 100 or 200 different offers from all over the world. Yeah. And I thought, wow, I'm so popular now.
That's how it is.
And it was from every possible Africa, Asia, Europe, everywhere. And I thought, wow, Dad, I got no problem finding a job. There's 500 places that sent me. And then I realized after I got here that how many people are just fishing, recruiting, and sending out their stuff. Yeah. So when I realized in Korea, I had about probably 50, 60 offers, and the only thing that took time was to siphon through them all to see what was real and what wasn't, and who was calling.
Which location and how much
half of them couldn't even speak English, and I thought, I don't know if I want to work there, but
do you want to come to my Nigerian Hagwon?
once you got through and I narrowed it down to a few countries and a few good schools in each one, then it was pretty easy. Pick one and go.
Yeah.
Just invest in my school. I pay $1 million.
There's a $300 application. No, for us, we chose Korea too. It was like, from everything we had heard and talked to our friends about, it was like really comfortable, easy to transition into, and also like a great jumping off place to go and see other places. So like not only was it really good to live here and work here, and I was drawn to like the very sort of stable nature of the public school system, right? It wasn't like there were no questions about are you going to get paid or is your vacation going to be approved.
That takes half the fun out of it.
not that all Hagwons are bad, because I think there's some great ones out there. But that was for me. I was like, I don't want to deal with that. Man.
I can't. Sorry.
How old were you when you came?
We were older already. What, 28, 29?
So that's why you don't want to be.
I'm not rolling
around
dice.
the bush.
I'm not rolling dice anymore. No.
I rolled in at 22, and I just caught the tail end of the Wild West,
Yeah.
where it was still, I'd say 20-30% of Hagwons that people were still getting burned for their severance or
get
whatnot.
Fired 1 week before your contract. That kind of stuff.
So when did you come? What year?
2013. 2013.
Because
we came.
Yeah, when I
Mid-year.
came, it was still full Hagwons, and there was a couple of uni jobs around. But I had left traveling 2 years backpacking and came back, and then that was 2008 was the start of the public school jobs.
Yeah,
And that's when they just said, just go down to the Board of Education and tell them you're back here and you want to. We had known some people.
Yeah.
And they said, just go tell them you want to.
So
everybody was applying from abroad. I think Ulsan took 250 teachers in the first intake.
Yeah.
And they'd all come from abroad. And Gareth and I were the only two. We went to Japan for visas and back, and we got them to pay for it.
Yeah.
And that was unheard of, but they knew we were good teachers. We'd lived here. We knew people at the Board of Ed. And we also got to choose our schools, which was a huge bonus.
Dude,
that we knew the lay of the land, and we said, well, I prefer to work in this neighborhood at this school. Yeah. And that's what we got, and we both had really good experiences.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, that is the only downside of Epic, right? Is that you get funneled in the system, and they're like, you're going to live in Korea, and you're like, where? And we'll let you know later. So we felt really lucky. We wanted Busan really bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to live in Seoul. Like, it just was never attractive
too much,
to us. Yeah. But Busan was really attractive, and living on the coast and all these. And they rejected me, actually, but my recruiter through Epic was like, Ulsan has plenty of openings. It's an hour away.
And you're in a good area too.
I'm really good. Actually, like, I look at it now and I look back at Busan would have been great, but we have friends who live down there, and when we go down there, it's just not the same feel. Like, I don't know if that's a little bit of like a sort of, feeling like good about our situation after the fact. Like trying to, feel good about getting rejected by Busan. But definitely, Ulsan has been really good to us. The community's great, and it feels good to be here.
Yeah, and I've been here over 11 years, Nate, close to 15, and that a lot of people who leave, whether they go back home or go to other countries, that's something. Again, I've only lived in Ulsan, and I don't know if it happens in Busan or Seoul, but they always talk about the feeling of the expats. Oh, it's a nice, we got a nice community.
I just think in Seoul is too spread out.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely pockets or areas, but I think in Busan it might be a little bit different, where a lot of the people live close to the beach, and that's why they choose Busan to live by the beach. So they must be a fairly tight-knit group close around there, but those cities are so big.
Yeah.
Ulsan's big, but a lot of people live in the similar areas and hang out in the similar areas. So it's I always think it's one of the best cities, and we got the KTX. I mean, it wasn't here when we came, but close to Busan, I can get to the beach before people in Busan can.
For sure. Yeah, we have a buddy who lives in Nopodong, and it's if we leave our place at the same time, I hop on the bus, he hops on the subway, we get there at the same time. So, we had a couple of buddies who lived in Ulsan for 3 years, left, came back, but then got placed in Busan. And they were like in a really interesting position where they lived in both places. And they talked a lot about like Ulsan being a really great community, having a much different feel.
And it's even, I mean, when we came here, man, there was 100 Hagwon teachers and some uni teachers who had been here for a while. And when the Epic people came in, things kind of, spread out a little more, but it still has that feeling.
I remember in the beginning, there was a lot of Canadians, Aussies, and Kiwis. And then once the Epic, they needed so many teachers. Yeah. And I think out of 250, maybe 180 or something were from America. Yeah. And that was a big shift in the demographic of Western foreigners here.
Yeah. Cool. Anyways, back on it here. We, Roy, before coming to Korea, had you traveled anywhere before?
Not very much.
Just within the U.S.?
Yeah. I traveled late. We grew up not like poor, but not a traveling family in LA. Yeah. I got on an airplane the first time I was 19, I think.
19. My first airplane ride was here, man.
Really? Yeah. Jesus. I got a passport when I was probably 24.
Yeah.
Like we just didn't travel.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of living in North America. It's so big and so vast.
Yeah.
You didn't need a passport.
No.
I don't know if you've gone to Vancouver or Canada, but I mean, we used to play hockey in the States every weekend, and I traveled all over Canada and America playing hockey.
Yeah.
And that's as big as all of Europe.
For sure.
And Asia, and so...
And regionally, all those places are really different, right? Like, you go to Vancouver versus Toronto versus Montreal.
Yeah.
Same in America,
Demographically, sure.
Yeah, it's way different each place, so...
Yeah. So, I mean, you live in Korea. I always make a comment, like, the sidewalks are the same throughout the whole country. It's pretty similar city to city, but like you said, in Canada, man, everything, it's
States,
totally
East Coast
different.
to West Coast is very, very different.
Growing up in LA, and then I remember traveling to Boston for work at one point and being like, man, people are different here. Like, it's just not bad. Like, it's great, but just like, dude, they're a little bit rough. I remember talking to a buddy who grew up somewhere cold too, and he was like, that's what it is, man. You
got to endure,
cold, it changes you a little bit, you know? But I traveled to Guatemala and Mexico, but nowhere off of, the Central America.
Yeah. California is pretty diverse just in itself.
Oh, you drive up
from north to south. I mean,
drive up to San Francisco, it's different.
The beaches, the mountains.
And,
it's gorgeous.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Very nice, very nice. So, I had known a friend, a longtime resident in Ulsan before coming, and he said, I said, what should I bring, or what am I? Just give me a list of stuff. And he said, the only thing you shouldn't bring is your girlfriend. That was his thing. He said, don't bring sand to the beach. I remember the email from back in the day. You came as a married man.
Yeah.
You came as a married man.
I had some very special sand.
I
loved.
I've seen a lot of couples come together and leave separately. I've traveled a lot, and it was always not the real travelers, but people always said, just go on your own and meet new people and find a new way. And
Emily and I talk a lot about that we're glad we came here as a couple, but it would have been a vastly different experience coming separately.
No doubt.
Totally. Day to day. But
I think too, Korea has definitely given you some hardships, and working through those together as a married couple definitely probably builds your relationship and bond stronger, right?
And our marriage really has been in Korea. Like, we were together and lived together and dated for a long time, 2.5 years before coming here. So we dated for a year and a half, and then lived together for about a year and a half, and then moved to Korea. Got married right before we came. We got married in May, and then left Seattle in mid-May, June, and then went on a big road trip, and then came to Korea in August.
So you're still on your honeymoon then?
Yeah, it's just never ended. 5.5 years.
But I think it's funny because I think it's impressive that you're married, so it must be you put more effort and time into your relationship. Where if it was just a girlfriend and easy to say, hey, Korea's pretty fun, man. I could live without you, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you're married, you obviously put a little more time and effort into the relationship. So I think that's cool, and I reminisce many times, what if I came with somebody, how different my experience would be, and how many things I would have missed out on that I did because I was single.
Yeah.
But at the same hand, you experience all kinds of cool things traveling with your wife, where I've never
it has
lived
been
abroad with mine.
It has been kind of cool to experience a lot, and honestly too, coming here was really hard that first 6 months for me. I think I experienced a lot.
Yeah.
More homesickness and regret.
Really?
Yeah, dude, it was rough. I missed my job. I loved the social work that I did. So no, Emily. I loved my job. Man, I loved my job and the people that I worked with, and also the 5 years in Seattle, I had worked really hard to get to a place in a position at an organization that I really loved. Looking back on it, when I was in LA and thinking about moving to Seattle, the job I ended with was I remember thinking, I would love to work for this organization in this program. And I ended up getting that job and being there.
Yeah.
And so leaving that job was not easy for me.
Yeah.
But I knew that it was good for us, Emily and I. And I was really interested in the adventure and living abroad. But coming here, man, those first 6 months, I'm not kidding when I thought, am I going to make it through this first contract?
Really?
Should we just go at Christmas?
Yeah.
I just hated it. I didn't enjoy the work, and I didn't feel good at it. And also, I felt really isolated at my school, which I think is a big thing for every teacher.
Yeah,
You're the only foreigner in this place. But don't get me wrong, it was a really beneficial experience for me. Looking back on it, I grew a bunch in that first year, and
Awesome.
But it was hard.
So now looking back, would you change it or no?
No, I'm really glad we came. I mean, now we're going to live abroad for the foreseeable future.
So that job at home is always there, right?
100%.
You can go home and get that job anytime.
My references on my resume now are my old bosses back home, two of them. And constantly, like that first 3 years, I would get emails from people that I worked with, like, hey, there's a position open if you're ready for it. Yeah. So 100%. Yeah. Home is always there, right? Like it's never going anywhere.
And saying that you came in 2013 and that was rough. Imagine the poor guys who came in 2008. When
2008?
The first
1998.
No, I mean the first Epic teachers.
Oh, okay.
The first Epic teachers who went to their school and they said, oh, we didn't get you an apartment yet because we don't know how to do that. Because the Board of Ed just told them, hey, get your secretaries or your English teachers to go and find an apartment. That was never in their job description to find an apartment to rent. And then they have to find furniture. And
100%.
So you came and it was like, they probably had the apartment or you had some options. They had 5 years experience. I mean, Gareth and I had already lived here, so we knew what we wanted. We knew, and I went to the school daily for like 2 weeks before my job started to meet the people and go. And she said, well, go and look at apartments. And if you find something you like, that's $500, tell us and we'll do it. But I remember people coming in and going, well, it said we're a couple, so we should get a bigger apartment for two of us. But instead they gave them two tiny single ones and some of them weren't furnished yet. And oh my God, there was so many problems. So your rough time in 2013 would have been a dream for some people.
100%. I moved in seamlessly. We had an apartment. They dropped us off. They, showed us around a little bit. And I had great co-teachers, don't get me wrong. Just like, to be really honest, their English ability wasn't great. I spoke zero Korean at that point. Yeah. So it was rough, some of the communication between us. And my first co-teacher, she was a very sweet old lady. Her English was not good, but she was retiring actually too. So not that like she checked out, but I think a lot of times she was like, "I'm leaving in 3 months. Dude.
It doesn't matter.
Like you're gonna be fine, and let the next person deal with it."
Ah, very nice. We I had a vastly different experience coming in. I was at a huge, a really big hog one, over 1,000 students, and we had eight foreign teachers. So every day you go to work, it's a party with it's a party with the people, which made the transition a lot easier, obviously.
Yeah,
and that is one of the benefits. I think some of the other ones though, like in the groups after that came, they came with their Epic groups, and it was very cliquey. Yeah, and they just stayed with their Epic groups. Where I found when we came earlier, you were forced to go out because you didn't know anybody, and you had to go and you said hi to every foreigner that you saw because 100%. You didn't know when you'd see the next one. and there was no Facebook and there was no Kakao. It was a real adventure because
dude, I was so like before I started my first contract, I was here for a month, and like it was at a really small school. I was covering for someone else. And I remember seeing the first foreigner. I hadn't talked to anyone in like 2 weeks, man. And I met this guy in the bus, and I just give him my full like, I'm from here. I'm saving this much money a month, and this, I've been eating this for lunch. And like he's just like, dude, I've been here for 3 years. I don't give a shit. I don't care what you're saying,
No, I know what you mean.
And embarrassing.
I liked in the early days that it forced you out of your comfort zone. I mean, I grew up and hung out with a certain kind of people, usually hockey players in Canada. Yeah. And then once I came here, there is no hockey players, and all of a sudden it was, wow, this 45-year-old guy is my friend, and this, all kinds of people that I never really would have had in my circle are now. It really opened me up a lot.
It really blows Koreans' minds when I say, oh, I'm going out with my friend. Oh, who? But he's 50, or he's he's early 40s, or he's 20. That's not your age. It's not even around your age. Yeah. But it's funny to see. Good. Let's keep moving on here. Raising out of your marriage, you've had a beautiful daughter.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go into the Did You Know one.
Into the Did You Know one. No, we'll do the daughter first. Okay. Tell us about your daughter.
She's great. She doesn't do a whole lot. She likes to jump and run, and she's 2 now.
Jeez.
But yeah, it's happened really quickly. We decided that was one of the reasons we decided to stay longer too, was to try to get pregnant and having a kid here has been.
Oh, I remember talking about this with you years ago. Huh?
Yeah, we weren't planning on having kids here.
Yeah.
And then the more we thought about it, the more I was like, man, like M can stay home, great insurance. Much
Save 10
cheaper.
grand.
Yeah, and the way it ended up with M, and Lou coming early, that we probably saved $20,000. I mean, I'm imagining that.
Well, I know from my earlier years here, I met many couples who would come here to have kids that had tried in America. They had to do in vitro or another
all that stuff is
unnatural
crazy cheaper here,
technique, and it was going to be way cheaper here. They come, they get a decent job, make money, and they're not just making and saving money here. They're saving the cost that they don't have to spend, trying all those procedures or whatever at home. So one couple comes to mind, and they ended up having twins here, and they couldn't be happier. Yeah, they had their twins. They stayed one more year and then moved back to the States. And I remember meeting multiple couples that, it was much, much cheaper than having it in the States. And I thought, wow. Yeah. Because in Canada, it's relatively inexpensive. So
no, it's like Luna was born, almost 2 months early? So she was pretty early. Yeah. She was supposed to be a February baby. She came in December. And so there was a lot of stuff we had to do. She was in the ICU for quite a while, 16 days, I think. And so the whole time we were there, I thought, man, it's going to be really expensive. And I was getting a little bit nervous about money. And, in the back of my mind, obviously, the first thing we were thinking about was
no, that's a natural.
Kid to be healthy. But
this is when you're thinking, thank God I didn't take that Hagwon job.
I know, right? Thank God I actually have insurance.
Do I have that insurance? Oh, we just told you did, but you don't really.
Well, that was the crazy thing was I remember at the end of the stay, like in my mind thinking I'm prepared to spend $15,000. Like if we got to check out with $15,000 bill, it's okay.
What if it's 16?
And not
keep her,
but
she'll wash dishes.
But we go to check out and they give me a bill that's like $550. And I said, no, I want to pay all of it. Like, we're going to pay all of it. I want the whole bill. And they're like, no, this is it. This is your bill. Emily, so the birth, Emily was in the hospital 3 days. Luna in the NICU for 16 days. All of that it was $550,000 under $500.
Nice.
US dollars, which is just insane. That you can't have that.
Come on, you saved more than $20,000.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
16 days in the NICU.
Do you call it NICU or NICU?
NICU.
Really?
Yeah.
The first time I heard someone say,
well, it's funny because no one say ICU, right? ICU.
Yeah.
No one says ICU.
I've been teaching NICU for the last 5 years, and the first time I heard someone say NICU was your wife. I was like,
yeah,
she doesn't know what she's talking about. Maybe I don't know.
I don't want to correct her. I'm an English teacher.
And was there any symptoms or anything that led to that, or was that just kind of spontaneous? Boom.
So no, it was
because I remember you calling and asking for what's going on, and you're right between two hospitals, and
it was rough. So actually, the way it all went down was Emily went into labor early, but we didn't know it. She woke up one morning, was in pretty decent amount of pain. Thought it was back pain or gas, just not feeling well for a long time, all day long. And I actually had a buddy here visiting from the States who's a doctor. Yep. And we were doing stuff all day, and she was kind of resting. And then finally we got back home late. It was 8 or 9 p.m. and she was like, I just threw up. Actually, I'm really not feeling well. And then he was like, hey, let me he's not doesn't work in any birthing capacity, but he was like, let me look online really quick. I have access to some databases. And I went in and was like, actually, I think with all the things you're telling me, you might be in labor and you should go in. She had actually passed what they call a mucus plug early in the day. And she had talked to the nurse, and the nurse said, just lay around. As long as things don't get worse and your pain isn't increasing, you can come in tomorrow and we'll give you a little bit. So I think actually also Emily has a crazy high pain threshold, a very high pain threshold. So for her, she was like, I don't feel well, but I'm not in labor. Yeah. But then we went in. Around.
They said it hurts more than that.
Yeah, we went in around 10:30 or 11 at night to Boram, the hospital near us. We had been going for her appointments, and basically they said, yeah, you're in labor, and the baby's coming. And at that point, they said, we don't have a NICU. We don't have any NICU services here. You got to go to Busan or Daegu.
Yeah.
And then they called around, found us a bed in Busan, and we hopped in the ambulance and went to Busan.
So is that, I don't have any experience in that, but is that, there's no NICU services in all of Ulsan?
No, they have beds in Donggu, but they were full. They don't have, it's not big. Even in Busan, they only had, like, in the room I'm trying to think, they had probably less than 15 incubators.
But that's crazy.
So-
Busan's over 1 million people.
It's wild, yeah.
Busan's 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5. Wow.
Busan has several hospitals
Right.
that have services. Daegu has several. So,
But I can't believe Ulsan doesn't. Sorry, we don't have any space.
yeah. Chariapta.
No.
It was for us, it was shocking. And then the next 24 hours just are a blur.
Yeah.
I remember driving in the car behind the ambulance because I had like gone home to grab stuff. It was so early, we hadn't even made our bag yet.
Oh, yeah.
Our plan was we have a buddy coming to visit, and then next weekend we're gonna like get the room ready and pack our bag and
We
thought we had time.
Let's decorate the nursery.
6 to 7 months there. You never know. Get ready.
It was crazy. So I remember like driving in the car and calling people and then calling one family member back home and be like, hey, can you call everyone and let them know this was going on? And then once we got to the hospital, everything was pretty okay. But it was a long while then. Like we were in the hospital there probably from about 2 a.m. until noon. And she gave birth right around noon. That was when we came. So
I've had a few different experiences in the hospital, and they've all been quite comical just because of the language barriers or the culture differences. But it must have been scary going in that situation. And I mean, was there a lot of English? Could they communicate well? Or
it wasn't. It was.
Because that would make it a lot more frustrating.
I was going to say it was probably about 60-40 mix, 60 Korean and 40 English. And I was like, my Korean skills were like put to the test. There's also like a lot of medical lingo that I have no idea. Like I don't.
Sure.
There's a lot of body part stuff that I'm not going to catch.
What
I can order food pretty well. I can have a little conversation, but so.
And you want details.
I want clarification. What is happening? But with that said, the level of care that we got in the Busan hospital was just incredible. Like all the nurses were incredibly warm and really kind to us. At the end, Emily, we hadn't even really thought about if we wanted to have an epidural or not. And then eventually Emily was like, I need an epidural. Give me an epidural. So they called the dude in. And that was like one of the most surreal things. This guy walks in. I swear to God, in my memory, he has like a hat, like a top hat on and a suit. He walks in.
And a cane?
Business, dude.
What is it, a planter peanuts, man?
I know. So he walks in and like takes his coat off, puts his hat down, and just like goes to work, right? Like he's the epidural guy.
Willy Wonka.
And he comes in, and Emily said that he came in and gave her the epidural, and she was like, thank you. Not expecting him to speak any English. And he was like, no problem. It's my job. And just walked out. Like this, it's just like this very mythical figure in our heads now.
Do you guys know at home? I'm not sure, but what I thought was interesting here is when we went into the first one, they told my wife that the epidural guy goes home at 6, and after 6, you can't have an epidural. So if you want it, you got to get it now before he goes home. And and I thought, really? Anyways, I'm just. Have you guys heard at home I'm guessing there's someone always available, but
yeah, I don't know. I know that the epidural is also really different here, where, like back home, M's friends have said it's a drip, but here it was like a bunch of epidural, a bunch of medication all at once, and she'd feel really great. But also she had a pretty negative reaction. It was like throwing up quite a bit, so she'd feel like relief from the pain, but then vomit a bunch, and then she got really cold and shivers, but like the pain had gone down, and then it would slowly wear off. And they'd tell her and us, like, when it starts to hurt again, let us know and we'll give you more. So it was like, instead of the drip, right, like a constant level of medication, it was like a big bunch of it all at once.
Because for my wife, they had it on a dial there, and they turn it up. I think it was a drip, and they turn it up or turn it down. And they said, okay, well, the baby's going to come. We want you to feel the contraction, so we're going to turn it down.
Turn it down now,
so that you can feel it, you can push at the right time. Yeah. And I didn't, like you, I didn't know a lot about this stuff, but I learned pretty quick. So that was that was an interesting experience for me. The other one I was going to say was my mother and sister came for the birth of my first daughter, and like you say, you didn't know what's going on and you want clarity, and they would come in and say, well, she's only dilated this much, so it's going to be at least 4 or 5 more hours. Yeah. And I said, okay, well, Mom, my sister, you might as well go get something to eat or whatever. I'll send you a message if there's any any movement or any action happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then they left, and 10 minutes later, the nurse comes in and she goes, "Okay, we're ready." Doctor comes in, like, "You just told us 20 minutes ago that it was going to be like 4 or 5 more hours. She's barely dilated."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they just decided, boom, it was going to come. And
Yeah.
so very different than the experiences. My sister has 5 kids, and very different than the experiences she's had, my sister-in-laws have had.
Yeah.
And I was just so surprised at how lack of accurate information they give you.
It's crazy for us though, because I remember at like 5 a.m. one of the nurses said, "The baby will be born before noon." And I remember thinking like, dude, get out of here. Like, no one knows this.
Right, exactly.
But Luna was born at 11:58 a.m.
No
so
way.
Like, and that nurse was just, I could tell.
You're just getting ready to call her out.
But they told us the same thing.
And then,
this baby will come before 7 o'clock because that's when the doctor goes home. And then we got to change doctors, and he doesn't.
They give her the Ace Ventura.
So that was it. They told us, even at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, your baby will come before 7 o'clock. One way or another, it's going to come up.
The biggest difference culturally for us in the hospital, I think, was like me not being able to be in the room. And at that point too, like I was so nervous about M's health and Luna's health that whatever they did, I wasn't going to question it. Right? Like I'm in your hands.
Yeah.
But so I remember them, like, we were in one room for the entire time we'd been admitted, and the nurses were caring for Em, and I was in there the whole time. And I thought we'd give birth there, but then they moved her to another room. And I remember trying to come, and they're like, no, stay here. And then I remember being like, no, I want to see. And then they were like, they cracked the door open for me, I remember. And like, I could kind of like see Em's feet like down this hallway, like into another room. And they were like, you need to stay here. And I remember being like, all right, like, this is crazy. And then, but it was quick. It was probably less than 15 minutes from when they took her into that room. Lou was born. And then they brought Lou out, and I remember I thought, oh, they're going to hand her to me. And they just kind of like showed her to me, like, hey, check out this baby, bro. And then she was gone. And Emily came in. Emily was really out of it at that point too. I think, just exhaustion. She had been up for 30 hours or something and in a lot of pain. And they then like swept me away and took me to a room. And then with a translator, we sat down with the doctor, and they just ran through a list of possible outcomes for Lou and things they were nervous about, things they had to do. Yeah. And I signed this, papers and like documents, 5 or 6 stacks of paper. And they were like, we're going to do our best to take care of your daughter. There's a lot that needs to happen in the next 24 hours for her.
Bri had a pretty funny skin-to-skin episode with his first kid, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did they make you take your shirt off?
Oh yeah, I was pinch hitting for mom there.
Nice.
They which one are you talking about?
I thought you took your shirt off and they saw the tatties and they were.
Oh no, that was my heart exam.
That's awesome.
That was my heart. That was my
we
heart
really
exam.
wanted to do skin to skin stuff and had read a lot about it. But I mean, really, we didn't touch Lou for 14 days.
Yeah.
And that's all. I think the Korean outlook is like nervous about infection. And don't get me wrong, Lou was a preemie. Her, she has some
immune system. Yeah.
But like back home, one of our buddies had a preemie and they did skin to skin every day. So I think there's some like cultural,
100%
medical outlook.
Well, I think traditionally, even my mother-in-law, she advised like, no one in the house for 100 days and this and that. Yeah. What, lady, relax.
But even just keeping the women in the Jodiwan.
Yeah, that's different too.
And they only see their babies to breastfeed.
Yep.
They don't even take them casually.
Yeah.
So
gotta relax.
I remember going down the first night. I thought, well, it's 2 a.m. I was in a room with 8 ladies and all their mothers, and they gave me a bench this size to sleep on. And I thought, I want to be with the baby. I'm going to go down. And I went into the breastfeeding room. Yeah. And I said, can I see my baby, please? And I know there's no one breastfeeding at this time. They're all sleeping. Yeah. And they said, sure. Yeah. I think there was a couple of university age ladies in there on the overnight shift. And all the babies were screaming and screaming. Yeah. And I thought, wow, I hope that's not mine. Can I have my baby? And they gave it to me. And I sat there for a couple hours. Yeah. And then the door opened and I went, it was my wife. And I was like, you told me you're too tired and you're exhausted. And she said, but I'm just surprised you didn't come back up. They must have gave you the baby, so I wanted to see. Yeah. And I was just sitting there. I was holding her all night. Yeah. But major culture differences. And it seems that they like, go and bring your mom and dad and let them wave at the baby through the window. And so different than home.
Much different, yeah. Yeah, I think the first time Em held Lou was when they brought her in around day 14 or 15, right before we knew she was going to be out, because it was all waiting on her weight and on a couple of brain scans, because there was a bit of blood on Lou's brain that they were like, we need to make sure that this is reabsorbed. If not, then it gets really serious. Yeah. It was no problem at all. But nice. I remember when we knew Lou was going to be out, they were like, come in on this day and we're going to do breastfeeding stuff, because we had been taking breast milk to the hospital and we were feeding it to Lou. But that was like the first time we got to see her outside of this, alien spaceship that she was in. That she was in. Awesome. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Terrifying to, at first, and then the great feeling of holding her.
Oh yeah.
Gina had come at night, so as the hospital works, when the baby comes, you get a room. Mm-hmm. And at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, it was too late, so we got the last choice, which is a room of 8 or 10 people.
Yeah.
And I'd asked for a single room or the VIP room because we weren't going to stay more than 2 nights.
Yeah.
And I just wanted some privacy and
of course.
And if we had the VIP room, we could have the baby in the room. We could keep her in the room.
Nice.
So they gave it to us the next morning, and we went, and it was bigger than my apartment.
Yeah.
It was bigger than my apartment. It was huge.
Yeah.
And it had a kitchenette, and it had TVs and sofas and table and chairs. So it was my mom, my sister, and then my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, sister-in-law with her family. Mm-hmm. And we ordered chicken and pizza, and we were drinking beer, watching the Olympics, because that was right at the Olympic time.
Yeah.
And the nurse came in to bring the seaweed soup, and she knocked on the door and she goes, "What's going on in here?" I don't know what they use the VIP room for, but we used it for 12 people. Yeah. And the nurse said, "You can't have this many people in here. You can't do that."
Yeah.
And I remember that the look on her face was just utter shock.
Chicken, please.
And
we're gonna take this out of the room.
My wife was eating, non-traditional food, and I mean, if you have pizza and chicken and seaweed soup, which one are you going to take?
So we were also in a group room, but it was really nice. Like, everyone in the room was super supportive and kind, and also we were actually really surprised by how good the food was. I don't know if that's like being foreigners, where it's like we'll eat any garbage they throw. But Emily fell in love with seaweed soup. Yeah. She had never really liked it before, and she was like, "Man, it's super good." When we came home, I remember either going to little banchan shops and buying miyakuk or making it at home for probably 2 months after. Sure. She loved seaweed soup. It's all she wanted to eat.
That's funny. One of my old gigs was at a hospital. It was me and the owner of the hospital's daughter, who ran an English program for kids. She also she had studied in America to become a chef, and other than the kids program, she was also cooking for the ladies in the Jodiwan. She said it doesn't matter what she cooks. She'll make the same pot of miyakuk and give it to miyakuk, for people listening at home, is seaweed soup. She'll give it to lady one. Oh, not enough meat. Yeah. Too salty. Yeah. Not salty enough. They said it's steady complaints unless it comes from mama.
It's like the kimchi. Yeah. I love restaurant kimchi, but my mother-in-law's kimchi is sometimes hard to get down. But I love eating kimchi. I mean, like fresh raw kimchi.
Yeah.
If I put it on the stove or in kimchi jjigae or whatever, fine. But otherwise, I really prefer restaurant kimchi, because I think that's just the most kimchi I've eaten is from there. So, but the Koreans are really picky as to which ones they like, and usually it's mom's.
Yeah.
All kimchi is good except when they sneak the raw oysters in. God. And dude, every year. Hey, try some new kimchi. And then you just get that explosion in your mouth.
Why am I eating fish guts? You said kimchi, not fish guts.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's the one I'm not a huge fan of.
Oh, good times. All right, let's jump into the first segment. Again, this is the first podcast. We're going to have 2 segments for each podcast. The first one is going to be Did You Know? Where we introduce a fact from Korean history and bounce it off the guest and see what he or she or they or Jay thinks. Zer. We'll see what they think. So this is the first one has to do with the printing press. So basically, upon coming to Korea, in your discussion classes, topics come up all the time, and there's reoccurring topics that always come up, and one is about about history or inventors. And if you're talking about the invention of the printing press, growing up in a Western country, Gutenberg is always credited with the patent or with the invention of the printing press. But you throw that out in a Korean class, and people are very quick to let you know that in fact Korea had either, was it 200 years before?
Yeah,
200 years before they had. It wasn't exactly a printing press, but it was movable type printing.
Yeah.
So, and they did that. It says a full 220 years before Gutenberg printed the Bible in 1454. So, again, with this difference in thinking, was there anything else in similar to this? Any other similar situations where growing up, you thought one way and you came to Korea and went, oh my God, I had no idea. Some information like this?
Yeah, I think definitely like coming here, especially around thinking about like the level of sort of Asian development, right? Like, is it a developed country? And I know Korea is sort of the hallmark of development when we think of Japan and Korea and
they won't admit that though, you know that.
Yeah.
They always say developing.
Yeah. But we're still getting there. Yeah.
Where?
No, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I think in some regards it's also true that like Korea is a really interesting place that is very developed in some regards.
I
agree.
agree.
Still developing in some regards.
Definitely still developing
Dude,
in lots of ways.
I love it. And I know this may be indicative of any big city, but there are times when I'm walking down the street and I catch the whiff of like developing Asia.
Oh yeah.
Where you're like, what? Who took a dump right here? Why does it smell like that? Because when I grew up, I never got the whiff, right? Like that's very much so like, yeah, it's still developing. And,
it smells like a Thailand street.
Yeah, but I think around transportation, like I had this much different idea of the level of transportation that would be available in Korea, and was just blown away by like not only the KTX, but even in the cities that we live in, right? Like there is the availability of public transport is just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, even Ulsan doesn't have a subway, but
there's
a bus that'll take you any single place you want every 10 minutes.
Growing up in Canada, and I mean, we were in a small town that didn't have any subways or anything, only 100,000 people. Yeah. But we still never really took the bus. You drove everywhere. Everybody drove everywhere. And it was only people who didn't have a car who would take the bus. But even a taxi, I mean, I could count on one hand the amount of times I took a bus or taxi when I was young. Yeah. And I don't know if we developed that mentality that's not, I'm too good for that, or maybe that's not, we don't have to do that. We're lucky we don't have to do that.
100%.
But coming to Korea, I was happy and proud to take those because they were saving me money left, right, and center. And it was extremely cheap and very efficient. And like you say, the buses go everywhere and anywhere. Yeah. And it's not like at home, there's a lot of poorer people who end up taking the bus because they don't have another means of transportation.
100%.
But I remember getting on the bus my first year and seeing women with Louis Vuitton and Gucci handbags. Why do you have a Louis Vuitton bag and ride the bus? Because where I'm from, if you have a Louis Vuitton, you drive a Ferrari. Or a Mercedes or an Audi or something. So I was always flabbergasted to see here and in Japan that they would eat ramyeon noodles 5 days a week just to save money to get a bag and have that superficial glam appearance and ride the bus.
Yeah.
So I was also surprised at that.
I think also one reason though that like the transportation is better here is because they view it as something for everyone though, right? It's not just for poor folks. And I know in LA they're trying to change that mentality and get folks to ride public transport, especially with the way traffic is now. My cousin works for the DOT there and the Department of Transportation. And she was saying that there's this huge push in terms of marketing, not just planning, but marketing to get people to change their idea about, look, the bus is great, or like the rail is great. It saves you time, saves you money,
no doubt.
Far more convenient, which I think Korea, it's not out of the ordinary for someone to take a bus. You take it across the country. Yeah. You hop on a train.
But it's population density too. Right?
Not like in Canada where you take the Greyhound and
someone chop your head off.
Chop your head or your body parts out.
I think of the Greyhound as definitely like poor folks getting across the country. That's how poor folks move, right? Like I would never take the Greyhound back home. I took buses across Korea all the time because they're super comfortable.
I took the Greyhound from Mexicali to San Diego, and that was scary, dude. And then I took it again from San Diego to San Francisco, and same. I think I used to ride the Greyhounds playing hockey, but that was with the boys.
Yeah.
But man, I remember riding from Saskatchewan to Manitoba, and we were just who's the crazy guy? Where's the scary guy?
Harvesting organs in the backseat.
No, it's definitely one of those things.
And you say it's more natural, and I thought,
What are all these ice boxes doing here?
We were up in Seoul a few weeks ago, the wife and I, and we were looking to get to one part of town, which is only 15 minutes away, and the subway is, across the street, down the stairs, 15 escalators, up and down and everything.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, and you have to transfer 2 times to get to where we're going. She goes, well, here, let's just take the bus.
Yeah.
And I don't think at home you'd never do. You might get a taxi.
Yeah.
But you would, and I said, let's get a taxi. But in Seoul, it's hard sometimes to find taxis, especially on the busy nights. And she said, let's just get the bus. And that would never cross my mind. And it pops into hers right away. Well, the easiest thing is the bus. On her phone, boom, we get a bus and we're there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's wild. If I missed the bus, I remember taking the bus with my nonna when I was really young. Used to love pulling the string and ding, getting off. But dude, if you miss the bus, you're waiting 45 minutes for the next one.
Yeah.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
Total.
Sure.
It's unreal.
Yeah. That's one of the things, like, thinking of also Luna is one of the things I'm most excited for her. She's going to be a public transport rider. I didn't grow up on public transport.
Yeah.
So going to college, I had to take the bus because in LA it was crazy driving and stuff, and where I went to uni was just nuts. But for Lou, like, she rides the bus in subways, and it's totally normal. Even now, like, these last 2 weeks, she's been asking for the bus.
Yeah.
Like, I want to, she loves riding the bus. Which to me, I'm like, dude, the bus is whatever. You just get to where you're going. But for a kid, it's super fun, right?
Yeah.
This giant thing that you get to stand in when it moves.
Oh, my daughters love it
Because
the drivers here are very unique.
Yeah.
They think they're in NASCAR or Formula One, and they make the ride extra fun because my daughters, I have to hold on to both of them and try and secure myself. And it's not easy, but they like all the whipping around. And
In Seoul, they have the Tayo buses, don't they?
The
buses that
look like the kids' character.
they look like the kids' character. And I think it might actually just be for kids.
Wow.
I don't know. Us country folk down here in Ulsan, we don't.
I have no idea.
Do you ever think about? I know one thing that I thought about after being here for a while was, wow, Canada's really. I mean, I knew it was young in terms of Europe young, but man, coming here and seeing their history books or their textbooks talking about 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think, wow, we're just a drop in the bucket compared to these places that have been around for this long.
No, definitely. I mean, that kind of goes back to the press stuff, right? Where it's like there's a very Western-centric idea that a lot of us hold. And I don't think it's a especially like negative outlook on the world. It's just where you grow up is where you grow up, and that's the center of the world.
Center of the world. Yeah.
But and our education is Western-centric and blah blah blah. for better or worse. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of times when we go to a temple somewhere and it's like, dude, this thing has been here forever. Literally forever, right?
Right.
Longer than anything has been around in America. The big thing in America, I think, is more of a push now to be more open to teaching, like, indigenous history. Because there's a lot of stuff, like St. Louis has old historical grounds that are thousands of years old also, that I was never taught about. Like, you don't learn about that. Even, I think there's like a Central or Southern American indigenous focus placed on like the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Incas, which is great. But North America had some really old settlements too. We went to a place called Wapaki Ruins that was beautiful in Arizona. Yeah. But yeah, definitely coming here, it was like, dude, that is crazy. That, like, you talk about King Sejong. Yeah. That dude, thousands of years ago.
Right.
Like, that's nuts to go to Gyeongju and be like, this place is old, man. Older than
dude. They got the big tombs. Like you're driving. Like, what's that big mountain over
hill over there?
And we don't learn a lot of that. I mean, we do European history and some American history and Canadian history, but
dude, we don't learn a lot about it. I had one history class. It was like these guys signed the paper at this time. World War I, World War II. Boom, finished.
I'm going to give you the highlights. Okay? Don't waste your time.
Watch this YouTube video.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that always, when I go to Gyeongju and some of those traditional places and go, wow.
Yeah.
This is real history, not 50, 100, 200 years, which is
even Ulsan Museum, man. When you walk through that, you see, like, I mean, the little arrowheads, or you can walk through the different periods, the Bronze period. Yeah, wild.
Definitely, yeah.
Wild.
That's something that I've appreciated about living in Asia now is when we go to places, even like when we're in Malaysia and Indonesia, going to some of the temples there, where it's like, man, people have been living in very sort of organized ways for a lot longer than the West, like Canada and America, and even Europe.
Yeah. You're speaking of Malaysia. That's where you're headed next, right?
After, we just accepted a job and signed the contract a week ago. So we'll be in Johor Bahru, which is like way south, right next to Singapore.
Jehovah who?
Johor Bahru.
Johor Bahru.
Jehovah Witness. Johor Bahru.
For new listeners, we last Monday actually we had a friend who lost everything in a house fire, which is super unfortunate. Communities come together, we're going to help them out, but I'm thinking your situation and his situation are kind of similar. I mean, you're starting. I don't think you're sending some clothes, or what are you?
We're gonna mail 4 boxes.
4 boxes. Yeah.
I mean, I'd say less than 50 kilograms of stuff.
So,
which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's amazing. Whole life,
50 kilos. Yeah.
So moving from Seattle to here, or from here to
we brought
Johor
way
Bahru.
too much stuff here. Yeah, stupid. It was like, I need deodorant. Like, it was just not very well planned out.
The deodorant you need. We used to have to special order that stuff. You can find it sometimes now.
But what do you when you're trying to make your house a home, or what do you find is the most important thing? Or I mean, when you go to Malaysia, what are those things that you say? I mean, when you move in, you got 4 boxes and maybe a sofa or something. What do you do to make your house a home?
The biggest things for us have been like pictures. So obviously like printing out pictures of family. Which is great now because all that's digital, right?
You can do it when you get for sure.
I'm gonna send my
Bring a
albums.
USB drive or have them uploaded on the cloud.
Yeah, sure.
But for us, we're bringing a lot of loose books and some very special toys. So not a lot of toys, but some special ones. And I think the second thing for us is we've kind of, as we've traveled, we've collected small items from places.
Yeah.
And for us, those things make our house feel like a home.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the history of our relationship and our marriage and the places we've been. Those are the things that are special to us. But like, everything else is disposable. Give it away, sell it.
I want to say from my experience, as you keep moving, those things that are special become less special and new things become special, because I used to have all those things from my time in Africa, from my previous times in Asia or Europe. Yeah. And now I have boxes of mom and dad's of these really cool things that I'm kind of attached to, and they hold special memories for me, but I can't bring them all over the world every time I move somewhere and keep, you replace old ones with new ones. And
for sure.
Now I wonder, am I ever should I just throw all those things out?
I don't think you should. I think it'll be really cool one day for Gina and Lena to realize you were a person before you were their dad. Right? Like,
because you're a loser now, so.
Our kids don't realize that we're people. We're their parents.
Right.
And that's how my parents were for me. And looking back at old pictures of my folks, I'm like, my dad had like a ponytail. And like he was a guy. And,
no doubt.
And looking at some of the old keepsakes he's hung on to over the years, which aren't many. But to see those, to realize like he lived a life before he was a father. So I think personally, I would say hang on to him.
But what do you do with them?
You leave them at mom and dad. You're doing it. As long as they're okay.
Right.
As long as
that's that storage business that's so big in Canada and America now, because everyone's got to keep all their junk and put it in those storage.
Well, unfortunately,
places.
too, the thing with that, it's not even special things that they're hanging on to.
Sure.
Right? It's like
Junkyard Wars,
refrigerator, or like some other thing.
Junkyard, no, not, is that what it's called? Junkyard Wars? No,
Storage Wars.
Storage Wars. Yeah.
Dude,
I watched a few episodes before that.
I think it was a few months ago. A guy opened, or a guy bought one for a couple $100, and there was like a couple million in cash.
Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, but how many guys? How many
drug money?
How many guys open them and there's nothing in there?
Yeah.
So I think it's funny when you say that, because I experienced that 3 moves ago, and as I keep going, I keep this is really important to me, and then all of a sudden I just don't need it anymore.
No, for sure. We have like some little pieces of art too that we've brought from Seattle that are small, or like even things we've collected. So those things go up on the wall, and we like get to enjoy them.
There's a little picture of a guy and a girl on a bicycle, and that was a gift for my wife when she went traveling before we're in the middle of the relationship. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I always thought that I will open a bar or something when I retire.
Those things, yeah, man.
And that I would have all those things because I used to, I still kind of do. I just haven't been a lot of new places recently, but I used to collect shot glasses and cups.
Yeah.
But man, from my time in Africa, I have beer mugs made out of bamboo.
That's awesome.
I have shot glasses made out of coconuts. I have all kinds of really, really cool handmade cups and glasses from all over Asia and
cool.
Central America. And I thought one day when I retire, I'll open a bar and you just say, can I get that cup there?
Yeah.
And then I tell you a story about where this cup came from. And
Give me the
know.
bottle with the snake in it.
I don't know if I
He's
can
got
afford
one.
the storage rent at mom and dad's until it's time to open the bar. So, but that was I have 2 big boxes of really, really cool cups from all over the world. And
nice.
I thought maybe that would be something I could do later.
Cool. Roy also during Roy's stay here, he's been a huge help with We Hope, which is an NGO that me and Nate and another friend run. Roy, back home, you said you worked in Seattle. You were working with underprivileged. Underprivileged.
Mostly homeless young adults in my work there with the organizations that I work for.
Cool. Was there any? Did you do any other volunteer work? I mean, growing up through school and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny. So I was homeschooled for most of my life until high school. Yeah. My mom kept us home till high school, and then we all got a choice to go to high school or stay homeschooled. And all of us were like, "See you, Mom. I want to go see other people. I want to go see some other people. I love you." But so growing up, and my mom's pretty religious, but growing up, there was definitely like a bent towards volunteerism and giving back to the community. And so I grew up in church most of my life and did a lot of volunteering through the church and stuff like that. So even after I, no longer was very religious in my life, that aspect of that value that the church gave me, even though I wasn't on board with all the other messaging, that really mattered to me still. To help others, do unto others as you would have done unto yourself.
That's something from Catholic school too. That's one good takeaway, I guess. From
those are important things
absolutely
that help build better communities.
And I think we're in similar. It sounds like financial situations growing up. Not no huge vacations and high school wasn't. High end uni actually wasn't the easiest time, and lots of people help out, and now being in a position to give back is
definitely
it feels that how it feels when someone not gives you a handout, but someone helps you out. It feels really nice to be able to give back.
Absolutely.
How did you get involved with us? What was the first? Were you at the orphanage?
I was at the orphanage coming off and on, and I think I just saw it on Facebook. I think
he
saw
was my D partner on the soccer team.
Yeah, he made me take my shoes off with my shoeless. But I came there, and then I think through hockey we kind of had more conversations, and then we decided to do the multicultural family stuff. And
I couldn't believe you played hockey, and I thought, being from California, it wouldn't have been popular then.
No, it was all roller. It was all roller,
Yeah,
as a kid.
I thought, wow. And then he said he played roller hockey, and I was surprised.
Yeah.
Why don't you try putting the skates on?
Which has been great, too. Like, that's been one of the most, amazing parts of living in Korea is being able... And you know how it is, right? The community there with the Haejuk guys, the Pirates team, and they're just wonderful.
I know the quality of the skates has probably gone down a little bit the last 6 months or whatever since Chrissy left.
Yeah.
And I know you're not going because... It's going to be a super heavy workout, especially when I don't stay on Sundays. But it's
fun to be there.
But before I was married and with a car and whatever. But the rides to the rink, whether it be with Sungtek or Mark and AJ and Petey, the old guys we used to go with.
Yeah.
But it was just that camaraderie, and that's what I missed playing hockey for so long. That kind of brotherhood and being in the room, and it feels like all the barriers are gone. Mm-hmm. When we first started there, nobody would talk. Yeah. And we would come in and start joking about the weekend or what kind of shenanigans we were up to. And then we'd make a joke about one of the guys' underwear. And they'd be like, why are you guys laughing at my underwear? You're younger than me. You can't say that. But then other guys would laugh, and slowly it all started loosening up. And I think they have a whole new appreciation of culture, life, respect, because we still respect them and they respect us. But we're not in that Confucius, I'm older than you. And I remember my first practice or second practice yelling and screaming because they weren't listening. And in Korean or Konglish, but someone came to me and said, "You can't yell like that
Yeah.
at these guys. They're all older than you."
Yeah.
And I said, "But the rink is 200 by 100. You can't
Yeah.
hear me. I'm not
Yeah.
yelling because I'm disrespecting. I'm yelling so you can hear me."
Yeah.
And that's what coaching is.
For sure.
Coaching isn't, "Hello, sir. You're
Yeah.
5 years older than me. Can you please do it this way?"
Yeah.
If I were you, I would try this. No, yeah.
So it's changed so much, and I think Sumtech, who's 60,
yeah.
close to, I
Yeah.
mean, and he's one of our best friends here.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's the dressing room, being on the ice, that feeling of home and that freshness. And
Absolutely. He's
I
even
love it.
mentioned, like, he's from Seoul and going back there, and he's even said one of the things he's going to miss is the community with the Pirates team. It's just
Right.
different. He was saying it's just different.
Yeah.
I don't even play hockey, and I've joined them in their hueshik, on their weekend drinking and having a meal,
Great
and again, great people, man.
Yeah.
Great people.
And I never ever would have guessed growing up in small town Canada thinking I'm going to play ice hockey in South Korea.
Yeah.
And I mean, there wasn't even a rink here until 2008. So
Yeah.
it's been awesome to be able to play. And I think that's one of the reasons I can stay in Ulsan is that I have that release of being able to go play hockey and just hang around with the guys.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Awesome.
So before you were going to Asia or to Malaysia, you had to get certified, right?
Yeah, I had to get my teaching license. I came
I'm
here
curious.
without a teaching license.
We've talked about it a little bit, but what was that like? And I mean, very different than obviously doing your teacher certification at home.
you can get full accreditation.
Yeah,
from-
there's two programs that do it through the U.S.
Yeah.
So Florida has Teacher Ready,
Yeah.
and then D.C. has Teach Now.
Okay.
And those are fully satellite online programs. So
How is there no evaluation of your actual
there
teaching?
is. So it's a 10-month program. Is what they sell it as. It's closer to 12 in my opinion. But basically, the practicum you have, like the teaching in class, you could either get a mentor teacher through the program,
Okay.
and you submit videos to them and then have a debrief with them once a week, or you can do it through your school if there's a licensed teacher. And luckily, because I work at a public school with licensed teachers in the country, one of my co-teachers was willing to do it for me, which I preferred.
Like a Korean licensed teacher
Any licensed teacher in their home country can do it. Obviously, there's still stuff looking over what kind of teaching you're doing in the practice, because you're submitting videos online to them of your practice and the debriefing and stuff like that.
Cool.
What was your co-teacher's reaction or response? I mean, that's a very foreign idea for. Hey, I'm trying to get a teacher's license from America.
Yeah.
Can you just
Can you
watch me and tell them that I'm good?
You're not a teacher?
Yeah.
I mean,
So I'm lucky that one of my co-teachers, we've been really close, and she's a great teacher. I actually really respect her a lot. So it's been really nice. It was really nice to work with her. And when I told her I was doing this, she was like, "Absolutely, I'd love to do it. It sounds really interesting." Also, Teach Now gives them some money. They give them like a $500 check for this 10 weeks that they're doing. So
No way.
They pay them for their time.
Nice.
so this is a lot different than the first co-teacher you had.
Yeah. Yeah, things have gotten
Now
better.
they're your best buddies.
Yeah,
Oh,
things
grandma.
have gotten better. Also, I asked one particular co-teacher whose English was very good, and also her teaching practice was impressive. Like, there were times that I saw her teach, I thought, "You're a great teacher. You're a really great teacher."
But there must also be others who are just trying to get through, and
100%.
and anybody or your English isn't good, but can you just sign all
But
this?
I need you to do this. I think the thing too for me, like, I went into the program realizing, like, with a very, very healthy expectation to say, look, I'm getting my license. I don't know if this is going to make me a better teacher necessarily, but I'm getting the license, and this way I can get my license. Luckily, I did get some things through the program, and I do feel like I've improved my practice a little bit.
That's something I think that a lot of people are. I mean, other than getting the piece of paper, but what if you're here for 5 or 10 years? What can they teach me?
Yeah,
I got 10 years in the
Yeah.
But
I think
there
lots of
was
it's
some
the process.
Yeah,
right? It's
definitely.
the process. Like going through university at home, I don't know how much of that information that I received I used day to day, but the process of going through 4 years of university and exams and studying habits and balancing a job and life.
Absolutely.
I think that's the important part. And same, I did my master's last year or a year and a half ago, and it's the same thing. It's dedicated to writing the papers, to doing the research, so
there
you
was
walk away with skills, maybe not information.
Right.
That's the big.
there was some takeaways from the
Definitely. Yeah, some classroom management stuff, and working with the ELLs, definitely like English language
Yeah.
in some pretty impressive ways that my program, I feel like, gave me some
Awesome.
skills, definitely.
And I think you make being online, you can make connections with lots of your classmates, right?
It was great, yeah. I mean, in my virtual cohort, there was 12 of us, and I mean, they're all over the world. They're in Japan and in Luxembourg and
awesome, man.
like, yeah. So it's cool. That even is really nice that I've stayed in touch with some of them, especially through the job hunt now.
Yeah.
When I was job hunting these last 4 months, like I reached out to all those classmates, one in Germany, one in Lisbon.
What ages were they? Were they?
There was a range. There were kids as young as like 23 or 24, and then there were people as old as like into their 40s and 50s. Like people, obviously, sort of this was their second career.
Yeah.
And they were looking to get licensed. And that's what the programs build themselves as. Look, we understand people are going to enter the teaching field at all different times in their life.
Right.
And maybe it's not, you don't quit your job when you're 40 to go back to school. You want to do this program on top of your job.
Right.
And I think someone who's, think about someone who finishes university, right to teachers college, boom, right into teaching. Well, what do you have to teach kids? Yeah. Well, what kind of lessons?
I think that's why so many of them quit.
Yeah,
they find it very difficult to adapt and adjust to some of the stresses and settings.
Other than just pumping them full of information, you don't really have 100%. Any, especially if you've done it all in your hometown or whatnot. I mean, there's some good influences, but overall, I mean, a life. We can think of some guys here that have lived a full life before 35, or before 40 years old, and they can they got lots of just good experience or knowledge to impart on the
definitely
wisdom. That's what I'm looking for.
Thinking.
No, I would say it was a good program. I'm glad I did it. And it definitely has opened up a lot of opportunities for us, to now get a job outside of Korea or at international school level, which has been really nice for us.
Thinking back to Seattle or LA, would you ever have thought that you'd be doing a degree online?
No, not at all.
Because I remember thinking that's never going to happen, and then when it started to happen, I thought, but those aren't very good, and they're just Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
But then having done a 2-year master's online, I feel like I took a lot away from it, and I thought there's a lot of benefits to being abroad and studying with people from different areas, different places.
Yeah.
And I thought now I would be an advocate, and I think it's very good, and it's convenient. It fits your life, your schedule, and you can kind of do it on your own terms instead of being forced into quitting your job.
People I think are skeptical with any new online, or it was for a few years there.
Absolutely. Am I getting scammed? Is this real?
Online shopping, legit? Same thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm not putting my credit card on there, and now everybody's credit card is on there.
Are they going to bring me the thing I paid for?
Yeah.
No, I mean, the big thing for me that's been nice is I did the program, I started it in 2016, and was hoping to be done before Lou was born, but Lou came early and I was still working on it.
Yeah.
But as I finished now, I've had like 3 different friends here do the program after I've been finished because they've asked me like, oh, is it good? And they have the same idea of like, not even like I'm ready to leave Korea, but how can I become a better teacher?
Yeah.
How can I open up more avenues if I want them, at some point?
That's when I found like, I never thought of myself as a teacher, but when I think about like, what can I do to make my class better? I'm like, maybe I am a teacher.
Yeah.
What can I learn? How do I get this skill, or what can I do to make it better?
Having a reflective practice, right? Like that's the number one aspect of being a good teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I remember seeing like some wonky epic orientation video way a long time ago.
Don't touch the children.
One of the best things that was in the video was they were interviewing a teacher here, and he said, "There's a lot of ways to be a good teacher." But there's only in my opinion, one way to be a bad teacher, and that is to think it's always the kid's fault. For a class going poorly.
Absolutely.
That's like anti-reflective, right? You're not saying, what did I do, or how can I do it better?
Damn kids.
Which I remember thinking a lot about throughout my time in Korea teaching and being in the classroom. Yeah.
You had mentioned to me last week or the week before, I didn't know about the A, B, C level of international schools, and that this program would allow you access to these ones, but not these ones, and these ones were. So I just wonder if you could speak to that. And going to Malaysia, how long do you foresee being there, and what's next after that?
Yeah, I think they talk a lot about like tier 1 schools and tier 2 schools and tier 3 schools in the international school world. And I definitely think because of my experience or my lack of experience at the international school level, they don't necessarily think of what we do as teaching. And I think in some regards they're correct, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's a different type of teaching.
Right.
But I definitely was there was tier 3 schools who were like knocking on my door, and there were tier 2 schools.
What would be like a?
I'd say a tier 3 school would be like something that we would think of like a really fancy hagwon, where it's not really quite a school. But it's kind of more like a bunch of kids who don't speak English very well, who are going to international school, but it's mostly an English school, but they also deliver content. They're going to study science and English.
And I think there's a lot of those in Korea.
There are, yeah.
Okay, so
like there's a few established, well-known international schools, and then there's a whole list of other ones that you've never heard of.
So an English curriculum alternative to the...
Yeah, it's like an immersion school, but not really an international school.
Okay, gotcha.
And then there's tier 2 schools, as far as I know, that like are, like decent little international schools. Not very big, maybe only been around for a couple years. And those are the schools that I was really focusing my job hunt on.
Yeah.
Does it matter by country?
Yeah, definitely.
There's more tier 1 schools in Europe or less in Asia? Or
100%. Yeah. There are like really well-established schools in Europe that have been there a long time, 20, 30 years. Even some in North Africa. There are a couple schools that have been there 10, 15 years.
But do they also have the tier 2, tier 3 schools?
Definitely, yeah. Right. There are schools popping up now. It's a growing industry, like with globalization and kids wanting to learn English. And a lot of wealthy families now say, like, I want my kid to go to uni in Europe or in America. So to do that, you have to be at least a fluent level of English ability. You got to pass some tests
and even if they're paying the money for the elementary or high school. I was just watching the documentary last night, Who to Invade Next. Have you seen it?
No, I've seen it.
Oh, it's good, man. And Michael Moore goes to all the different countries, but one of Slovenia. He goes to Slovenia and just says, he's interviewing everyone, like, do you have student debt? Do you have any debt? Everyone's like, huh? He's like, but I found one person who had debt. And you can hear the American accent, It is,
yes, I do.
Yeah, I do. I had 10 grand of debt.
The biggest thing for us too, coming to Korea, like I paid off the last little bit of my student loans much quicker than I thought I would. We paid off our car, and then eventually sold our car back home. But like, we've, saved a lot of money. And that was like one of the small reasons we stayed here longer was to have a family and also be able to save money.
Which I think lots of people, there's more financial freedom. I mean,
100%.
And you just live for me, I live a much simpler life here than at home, collecting, 100%. Having a big house, collecting all the stuff, and just having lots of stuff. Where here, the house is small. We get out as much as we can because it is small. It's not minus 40, so you can enjoy the outdoors.
I just moved into this, and it's funny. My older place was bigger, and you tell everyone like, "Oh, I'm moving." Like, we're getting a bigger place. I'm like, no, I'm getting a smaller place.
Yeah.
It seems great. It has a better layout, but just again back to our friend losing everything in the fire. You moving to the new country. You're looking through drawers and like having a conversation with the wife, like, what's his hardware for? I don't know. Better keep it just like it's been here for 3 years. Toss it. What are you doing?
There are things we did a big clear out when we moved from our little studio when Em and I got pregnant to our bigger place, which isn't it's not big. It's like a small 2-bedroom apartment by American standards where we live now. But we went through stuff, and like I had read that Marie Kondo book, The Magical Act of Tidying Up, or whatever, a long time ago, and there were some powerful points to it. It's a little touchy-feely for me, like talking to your things and thanking it for its services too much. But there was this idea of like, does this one like simplify your life? Because she's Japanese, and I think there's like a minimalism that runs through there too. That's really beautiful. But also the idea of like, is this something that brings you joy? Is it something you care about? Keep it. If it's not, get rid of it. Right. And there were tons of things that I was like, why am I saving this thing that I don't need, that I feel obligated to hang on to for some mysterious reason? Yeah. Right. I can easily just let it go. Yeah. Say goodbye to it. And
I've gotten a lot better at just, I haven't worn this shirt, but
it's a perfectly good shirt.
What if I go to, dude, I had a pair of shorts. I swear to God, I kept them for 3 years in case I go to Nate's farm. What if I go to Nate's farm? It's insane.
But we joke, we used to say like when Dad would go away on a trip and Mom could throw out half his stuff and he'd never notice.
Yeah.
And you could clear out half the garage and he would never notice.
Until he goes 100%. In the attic one day looking
the same. If Mom left, we could throw. And so now I think the same. If I go and I think, is my wife throwing my stuff out? Who cares? Or is something missing? But yeah, you don't.
If I have to think about it, it doesn't matter.
But when you're there and you say, do you want to throw that out? No, never.
No, it's really fascinating.
But if I go on a vacation and my wife throws everything out, wouldn't even notice.
That's it.
And that like ran through us a lot. Like I remember when Em was pregnant, I chose a couple books to read, and one of them that was really powerful was Simplicity Parenting. It was this book, and the whole idea is like our lives are really busy and full in ways that don't make us happier. And all you have to do is take a step back, just one step back.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
Because so often we like get into a default mode where it's like, it has to be that way. You gotta have more stuff. You gotta be busy.
And you gotta pay to keep it up. You gotta pay for the maintenance. The more you have, the more you gotta take care of, right?
In that way, it's silly. So, and I think getting back to like the tiers of schools, I've been really happy to say one thing I think a lot about. Those tier 1 schools, man, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of money, don't get me wrong. But you're going to be really working. We have friends who work at Chadwick International. Dude, they're busy, man. Like, they work hard.
Right.
And not that I don't want to get there someday. Maybe I will. But right now I have a 2-year-old and I really value my work-life balance. And that's something that Korea has afforded me. So going to Malaysia, that was something we thought a lot about, was like, we want to be in a place that one affords us a lot of freedom to go places and give us a good quality of life, but also gives us the time to enjoy it. Because I want to enjoy my kid being 2 right now. Right. That's a special time for me.
Our friend just CC'd us on an email from a previous coworker, but we just got like a small glimpse of his work life, and there was 3 or 4 things in the email that I never even would have thought would have been part of a teacher's. Well, you know, an international school teacher's duties, you know. Oh, did you submit this for the parents' meeting and this? There was 3 or 4 things I just went, oh man, I thought your working hours, you know, on paper it looked really good, but there was a couple extra things that went, wow, what?
I would say that my friends up in Incheon, they probably work 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day at school. Not to mention stuff they do at home and on the weekend. Ooh. So they're legit pushing 55-hour work weeks. Don't get me wrong; they're very well compensated. They make quite a lot of money. They get great vacation. So there are benefits.
Give and take.
But
I think, like you said, at this stage, we all have young kids between 2 and 5, and I'm the same. I love having the flexible schedule. I love being able to spend the mornings and the afternoons with my girls. Yeah. And my wife's at a point in her career where she can't because she's working a little bit further from home. Yeah. But I think it's a special time, and I don't want to miss it. And I think. No. You're right. Having that flexibility or a little bit more time is important at this stage.
100%.
So, what are you looking for in Malaysia? How long do you think you'll be there?
You know, it's a 2-year contract from the get go, and then 1 year renewals after that. Yeah. But we think a lot about it. As long as we're happy there, and the school's good, and I feel like I'm learning and growing there, I wouldn't mind staying there 4 or 5 years. Nice, cool. Mostly because, like, talking to my friends who are at those tier 1 schools, they talk a lot about, like, one of the things those schools look for are dependable people with longevity. Like, if they see you hop around every 2 years, they're kind of like, dude, you know,
we get a relationship with the kids and the staff,
and it shows investment in the community and that you're really part of something, growing something. So absolutely, the school in Johor is only about 8 years old, and they just moved into their new building. So I think they're really growing, which is good for me as a young teacher. I think I could move into a leadership role maybe in year 2 and like do some really good things for my resume and my professional growth. So I'm not in a hurry to get out of there as long as things are good.
Do you ever see returning home, or is that too far ahead to think about?
I don't know, man. We'll see how the 2020 election goes. But I remember leaving and thinking things were pretty good, and then being like, oh man, there's some stuff back home that I don't have to deal with too much. I don't know if that's a
But 2020 is not far away. That'll be the end of your contract.
It will.
In Malaysia.
I think for us, we think a lot about, for Lou, maybe at 9 or 10, what will Lou kind of be articulating in terms of, like, is she going to miss her family a lot? And then that might become a discussion about, like, maybe we should move stateside and be closer to cousins and aunts and uncles and things like that.
But for me, moving back home, I mean, my family's spread all across the country.
Yeah.
So even if I'm home, I still don't see them. And I have to go where I can get a job. If the job is not by my brothers and sisters or my mom and dad, then I still don't get to see them. So it's not just move home and I get to spend time with family. It's not always like that.
There's a pocket of friends who live in Ottawa, and when we visited last time, everyone had come together for a party, and my wife said, like, "Oh, this is great! You know, we could live here one day." And listen, that was the middle of the summer. Everyone's on vacation. Real life isn't like that, man.
No.
Maybe once, twice a month you can hang out with the boys, but
Yeah.
it's much different.
I think for us too, like we're all on the West Coast, which
Yeah.
is fine. But my family all lives in LA, and there's no way I'm moving back there. I'm just not gonna do it. It's expensive.
Yeah.
And my family's in Winnipeg, and it's minus 45 in the winter, and the mosquitoes are like tennis balls. So I don't have intention of moving back there either.
I think I see us staying abroad at least until Lou's 8 or 10.
Yeah.
And then even then, if we were all really happy and things were going good, like the thing about the international school too is Lou's going to get free tuition at the schools I work at. So
That's why you're going there.
she's going to get a killer education that I would never be able to provide to her.
And I love that
Back home.
we're raising global kids.
Oh, yeah.
They're not just like our kids are half Korean, but they're not just Korean, and yours is not going to be just Malaysian or American she's gonna have things she remembers from Korea.
Yeah.
They'll be small, but she'll have things that she definitely remembers from Korea.
I love that all in one day, Luna will call one person a tita, which is auntie in Filipino, Tagalog, and then she'll call a guy Theo, which is uncle in Spanish, and Imo in Korean. Like, it's awesome. Like, to me, that's a really cool. We were at a coffee shop yesterday saying goodbye to friends and stuff, and there was, a tita and an emo and a samchon all sitting together with us.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. Like, Korean's happening, English is happening, a little bit of Tagalog is being thrown around.
And I think that's really the understanding that the world needs to bring that peace and to understand other people, where they're coming from, and
that's
the different aspects.
One question about working in international schools, working in Korean universities. A lot of guys who get up there in age, they worry they're going to get cut, or it's more difficult as within the private sector or unis or whatever. As you get older, you're less,
you're more expensive, and they feel like, are you less moldable, right? Can they really?
Absolutely. What about for international school? The older you get, the better? The more experience?
I think there are also worries and concerns. If you're really experienced, there's no worry. Like, I think a big school will hire a 50-year-old in a heartbeat.
Okay.
If you come to the table with like, dude, I got 20 years IB experience, and I've worked in American curriculum and Canadian curriculum.
Okay.
If you're good to go. I know that China does have age restrictions. I don't know if Malaysia does, but I know China, you have to start your contract before 60. So as long as you get your first contract before the age of 60.
Well, you got a few years to go.
I'm okay. Then I think from there on out, you're okay to continue renewing with them. If you left and came back, I don't think you could. But I know that I've seen that on some school notices, job notices for China only.
Awesome.
So
Okay, we're getting short on time here. Just our last segment is stories from the sauna, and I remember discussing this with you a little while ago. And maybe today we'll venture off the sauna a little bit and get your story from your medical exam, because I think that was a really good one, and it came about when we were talking about this in the first place.
Yeah.
So the idea, or going forward, the idea is going to be we're going to ask the guests. Everyone here has had a funny experience. If you've been to a sauna, you've definitely had a funny experience. But like Nate said, we brought this up. Roy doesn't have any really funny sauna experience, but he has a killer medical experience. So Roy, take it away.
The funny part was my dad wouldn't go to the sauna with me when I told him. Because I was like, Dad, there's this cool thing, and we'll go.
Yeah.
He was like, that sounds great. And I was like, yeah, and everyone's nude. And he was like, I'm okay, man. We don't need to do that together. That's a little bit weird for me. But I had to get a medical checkup for my job in Malaysia. So I went to this doctor's office, and the main doctor there spoke English pretty well, so it was great. But then they send me over to get a cardiogram.
Yeah.
Right, they have to put all these suction cups
yeah.
on my chest, and they tell me to lift up my shirt and lay down. And so I lay down and lift up my shirt, and I'm very hairy, right? Like I have a lot of chest hair.
Golila.
So
but regardless, hairy or not, it's going to be funny. As soon as they say lift up your shirt, you're not Korean, something's going to be funny.
Yeah, there's going to be
either your nipples are too big, too small, too whatever, your belly button. Yeah. Something's always going to make them giggle and laugh.
So I could already tell immediately. She was like, "Oh my God, what is wrong with this guy's body?" So they try to put the suction cups on my chest, but they won't stick because of all the hair, the vast amount of hair on my chest. So she's trying to put them on, and she can't get them to stick. And so she just kind of sets them on, and then tries to run the machine. And obviously it's not reading anything. I'm dead. So then she comes back, and she's comes back with reinforcements. So now there's 2 women, and they tell me, don't move, because I'm trying to hold them. I'm like, I can hold them. No, they won't read right if you're moving at all. So they tell me to put my hands down, and then they just are standing over me with the suction cups on me.
Yeah.
Like, just standing right over me. And I'm like, dude, this is weird, man. Like, we can't make eye contact. I'm like on the bed now with like
half heart.
just Korean women hovering over me. So then that doesn't work either, right? It's still not reading right. Because there's not like...
How much hair do you have on there?
Quite a lot. I'm a pretty hairy dude. Half Italian, half Mexican. And so they come back and they just smear me with this gel. So now it's getting really weird, right? There's like multiple women just rubbing lube all over my chest.
Just slathering it on.
Yeah, a crazy amount. So finally they get to
that was your dream in high school, right?
Yeah. So they finally get them to stick and they get the reading.
Movie.
And then when they're finished, I'm like, cool, we're done. So I go to move them and they're like, no, wait, we need to clean it. So I'm like, oh, give me the wet tissue, right? The wet wipe. I'll do it. And they're like, no. So they insist on cleaning my chest with this wet wipe. And that was like the weirdest part to me. Like, I was like, I can do that part? Like, that's not a medical exam part?
Did they give you a shampoo and rinse too?
Yeah. Oh, it was so weird, dude. And I felt so bad for the ladies because I know they're uncomfortable too, right? Like, it's like, this is not in my job description.
Was a wet wipe just smearing it around?
It was. It didn't even do a very good job of wiping it up. Yeah.
I don't know. Here they like even when you got a runny nose, they use a wet tissue to wipe it up. I never understood that.
I think the thing too with like Koreans aren't hairy, right? They're hairless.
Hairless.
But I remember back home, I would imagine they'd use that goop on our anyhow. They'd use it to like suction it really well. So I think that's like how they're supposed to do it. They should
just wax you like Steve Carroll.
That was the other thing.
The first time I thought you were going to say they were going to take a razor and...
Oh, I would have loved it. That would have been great to see them try to shave my like crazy amount of chest hair with like 2-blade razor, right. no shaving cream.
Isn't that when he goes on a Malaysian podcast? What happened to your nipple? Huh? They sliced off a quarter piece of pepperoni.
It's gone. Yeah.
Good times, man. Anyways, that's all the time we have for today, Roy. Thanks so much for coming, man. Best of luck going forward in Malaysia. You always have a home here.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. And hopefully we'll catch you at a hockey tournament down there.
Yeah, come on, Singapore tourney 2021. Yeah, let's do it.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks, guys.